The government's saying no thanks to some advice on climate change targets. This is from the Climate Change Commission, which was set up to monitor this stuff. The move has drawn criticism, as you can imagine, from the Greens, climate experts, including a former climate change commissioner, who's described it as worrying and a clear signal the government's not serious about cutting emissions. Distinguished Professor Robert McLachlan is from Massey University and joins me this morning. Good morning, Professor.
Kia ora, Ryan. Glad to be here.
Good to have you on the show. Does this mean we're all going to go to hell in a handbasket? Is this going to actually change anything?
Yeah, I think it will, because the whole frame that was set up in 2019 in the what was called the Zero Carbon Act, that set up a whole system of checks and balances. So the Act doesn't force the government to solve climate or reduce emissions or so on, but it sets up all these checks and balances. So the Climate Change Commission, they play a big role there, and the public. So lots of consultations and lots of opportunity for people to have their say. And those are the parts that are will be put at risk here by these changes.
Yeah, so they're saying there's a duplication in the advice that they're getting. They're just cleaning up a complicated mess.
Yes, so one of the things that's being cut is that the Climate Change Commission will no longer advise on the emissions reduction plan, and that those plans are the key part of what is supposed to drive action in the country. It says create certainty over what the government's going to do, and then all the businesses and households, in theory, can get on board if the government's leading appropriately. And the Commission has been consulting on those plans, and that has influenced government policy. Of course, not so much under the present government, but they still form one of the important legs of the whole response.
Right, because what is different about the fact that, so when they're setting the targets, they would usually ask the Commission for advice, but they have the Ministry for the Environment. There are other places you can get advice. Presumably they're still getting advice. They're not just setting them, at random.
That's right. Well, the advice doesn't force the government to do it, to follow that advice, but of course it all goes into the mix, and the public also provides input, and that's also important. So one of the other changes here is that the public will no longer be consulted on what the actual carbon budgets, what the climate targets are going to be. And that's very important, because that is one thing that we know the public are very interested in. They all want to see stronger action and stronger targets. And they won't be able
but not at any cost,
have a
right?
chance to have a say.
You're right. I mean, you're right. You ask anyone in a survey and you say, do you care about climate change? Of course I do. How badly? So much. And then we continue filling our cars with petrol and using plastic knives and forks when we go to, out for a lunch. So yes, you're right. But there's also another part of us that is self-interested, that still wants to drive our cars, that still wants to have the electricity going, and will use coal from Indonesia to do it. Thank you very much. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it's all a one-sided story, no matter our intentions.
Well, on the coal front, we've just had almost an entire month with no coal power for electricity whatsoever, and that is really unprecedented. So some good things are happening as a result of changes that have been put in place. But yeah, you really put your finger on how the situation works. So, for example, to do with cars, currently the government's supposed to have a sector-specific plan. So they say, here's the plan for transport, here's the plan for electricity, for energy, for industry. So that is also proposed to be removed from the Climate Change Act.